Happy Sunday, everybody. More importantly, happy WNBA draft lottery. I guess I'm a host today. I'm Conrad Pasquale. You know me, CP3_777. I am joined by my co-pilot, my wingman, my fellow TCH scout, Maxwell Geiger. You know him as Hoops Disciple on X. But yeah, obviously we decided to go live today. This is ideally the first of many live streams that we're going to do that are WNBA and women's basketball related. Maxwell and I will pretty much take point on most of them, but we'll have some like guests, co-hosts throughout the season. But I think today being our first one, no time like the present with the WNBA draft lottery. So before we go in, obviously ESPN's just begun their coverage. They probably won't reveal the order until like the last, I don't know, like 10 minutes till the hour. So until then, we're just gonna talk about our feelings about the lottery. So Maxwell, before we get started, how you doing? And what are some of your initial thoughts just going into today?
Man, today was a big day. If you guys know me, I'm a Mystics fan, so obviously we're in the race. We have a 9.7% chance at the number one pick. So, we're not in the podium. We're not in the top three for odds, but we are fourth in odds, and I feel pretty good about it. Kiki looks confident up there on the podium. She is representing us today at the lottery. But I'm excited. The lottery is always a day that, brings excitement. It's a day that is full of opportunity. Any team can make the jump. I think that's what, I think you would agree, Conrad. That's kind of what makes it magical. And this year, with 5 teams in the lottery, I think it could be open to more surprises for us. Maybe not even Washington. Maybe we see a team like Minnesota jump to that number one pick. Maybe it's a team like Chicago jumps from 5 to 1. So a lot of opportunities today and a lot of possibilities. I'm excited to see how it goes for the first year of 5. What are you thinking, Conrad? What are your initial thoughts?
You keep saying first year of 5 teams in the WNBA draft lottery. I got my Warrior-centric logo behind me, but I could have easily changed this to Valkyries, but that would have been misleading because Valkyries are not in the lottery. Again, one of the more recent expansion teams. We have not experienced this excitement. Make no mistake, I'm very happy about the success that they had in year 1. But yeah, again, last night when you and I were kind of talking about doing this live stream, and then this morning, just kind of thinking about all this, kind of like got me thinking like, man, this is just, again, with the two new expansion teams coming in, teams that are clearly like in the midst of a like either rebuild or a reset, this is very much a franchise, like a defining moment for a number of franchises. I would say, I want to get your opinion, but I feel like maybe other than Minnesota, today and the picks that they will be granted, really, I wouldn't say like just completely automatically dictates the course of their future, but it's massive. It's massive in terms of how they approach free agency, roster building, player development, all that. So yeah, you don't take this day lightly.
No, definitely not. I think you bring up a good point with Minnesota. That's kind of like one of the hot buttons of the lottery today, because not often you get a team this good with the second best odds at the number one pick. Now, like with Minnesota, the only person that's under contract officially for next season, as far as I know, is Anastasia Kosu. But I'm expecting, and I'm sure you are as well, Conrad, that if most of the Lynx players are returning to the W next season, they probably will return to the Lynx. I'd be surprised if they lost any part of that core, maybe a piece or two. But I'm excited to see what happens with them, because I agree with you. I think, if you're able to, let's say Cheryl Reeve really likes Lauren Betts, right? And you're going to build a team and a front court around Betts, Elena, and Nafise Collier. Like, that is a whole different team build, in a whole different direction, like you're saying. Or let's say they maybe fall in love with an Olivia Miles and they want to add her to the back court. Or, maybe they get the number one pick and they're feeling a little fam as
adding to the fam.
Adding to the fam. Yeah. They have, as you said, they kind of have the most interesting opportunity here. I'm excited to see what they do with it. But selfishly, I hope they fall so that the poor can get more rich and the richer not get more rich.
On that note, I mean, again, I think all fans are gonna. I mean, if you're a fan of any team, you want your team in all likelihood to win the lottery, right? But there's no right answer to this. I'm just curious. Let's just put it out there. This is an easy one. Who should win the lottery? Then again, this is very, very objective, but in the sense that, like, okay, who maybe needs it the most? Or, you know what I'm saying? I guess, it's open to interpretation.
You know, my gut says Chicago. Because, I mean, I think you would agree, out of these 5
They
teams...
should win the lottery?
I mean, I guess they shouldn't win. They need to win the lottery. Who should win the lottery? Probably the Mystics or the Wings. Those are 2 teams that kind of had the most ethical tank that are in the top 4. Seattle and Minnesota both have traded picks from other teams. So who should win are the teams that had the ethical tanks led by rookies who were all-stars, Dallas and Washington. So that would be my opinion. If Washington doesn't win, I would like to see Dallas win. What about you? What do you think?
Mine, I don't know. For some reason, I'm just very fixated in terms of who should, in the sense, as you said, I like the way you phrase it, ethical tanking. It's not even just ethical tanking. Perhaps just, again, spirit of competition, while also just kind of being a forward-thinking front office. That's what the front office's job is. I kind of like Seattle. I feel like, again, they had their cake and ate it too, right? They tried to remain competitive with their established veterans. Again, that's a different story about who may return, if any, since they are unrestricted free agents.
Yeah, we'll see about that team.
They competed. And again, the moves that they made in prior seasons positioned themselves where, again, even though they made the playoffs, here they are, right? With the second best odds?
Third best odds.
Third best odds, right? For the number 1 pick. I mean, I don't know. That's cool. Again, same thing, right? A lot of the excitement, the intrigue with, Dominic Malonga and everything. All kinds of possibilities where, again, she could essentially or eventually ascend to being their franchise player. And it's, again, just supplementing her with, a co-pilot, a number 2 maybe.
Yes.
But I'm with you. I've put this out there on social media. Maxwell is not just a diehard Mystics fan. He's very tuned in. So I would encourage you all to follow him for his insight about, their team dynamics, machinations, the X's and O's. But I wouldn't mind seeing the Mystics win this one too. Because, again, this will probably be, again, another topic we talk about, but in terms of teams, not just team building, in terms of trying to build a complementary roster, but also trying to truly understanding and accepting your timeline, and that's not to say you're just okay, like being bad and you're okay, like just, like sucking game to game. No. But in terms of just not trying to skip any steps, not trying to expedite anything, right? Trying to align the moves you make, whether those are draft moves, free agency moves, to not just mask development, but really supplement, player development. I feel like that's what they did last year, probably even better than they expected. But I think they have the opportunity, regardless of where they finish after today, like where they're picking in the lottery, I think they have the opportunity to continue doing that. And I think it would be really cool if they ended up with the number 1 pick, because, again, like it's, optionality. That's the buzzword, but that's it,
No, well, optionality is a good way to kind of put the Mystics, because they have so many people under contract. I mean, we have JC Sheldon, Lucy Olson, Georgia Amor's coming back, on top of our 2 all-star rookies that we had last year. All those players are under contract heading into next season and beyond. So for the Mystics, they could, if they did land the first pick or the second pick and, had more optionality at that pick, is the buzzword that we're using, they can go many different ways in this draft class, specifically this class. There's talent in the front court and the back court, and talent that I think you feel the same. Certain players could potentially be franchise changing, both in the front court and the back court, I think it's kind of interesting with this lottery because you don't necessarily have to have the first pick in this year's class to win this lottery. I think the best player might be available after one potentially. That might be a conversation we get into later. But yeah, I
Hot
think
take
just
already. Hot take. 10 minutes into the show, man. No, keep
I'll
going.
just I'll just say this, like, you look at all these teams, Dallas has this core under contract of, Segrist, Page, Isaiah, JJ. Chicago has Camilla, Angel, and Maddie Westbeld. And those three teams have really interesting young pieces. I mean, I think, Chicago could be poised to make a trade in the front court and possibly move off Camilla for, maybe pieces that fit the team better, especially for a player that could fetch a decent return on the open market. But I would, if the Mystics don't win, I would also like to see one of those younger teams that already has a young, exciting core. I like most of those players that I just named off for each of those three franchises, especially in Dallas. Segrist, Page, and Isaiah and JJ, like those are four, really fun players and players that you want to build a team around. So if Dallas were to win, who's a 42% chance to win, I mean, that would be super exciting because they could go, with AZ, they can go Betts, they can go Awa. There's so many different directions that they could go, or many teams. So that's what makes this lottery exciting. Looks like we're coming back out of the commercial right now. And
I see some highlights. Awa Fam, AZ Fudd, etc.
Little Jazzy Davidson flair right there. Let's see who's their top 5 prospects. Or is this in order? So ESPN has Fam 1, Lauren Betts 2, Olivia Miles 3, AZ Fudd 4, and Flau'jae Johnson 5. I think that's in order. Yeah, top 5. Yeah, that was their order.
Well, then let me ask you this. While looks like we still have some time. And sorry if you're wondering why I'm looking over my shoulder, my TV is behind me. So, but I am wondering then, since you just made a really good kind of a recap assessment of how it affects each team and kind of the state of where they are. In that case, do you believe, are there 5 franchise players in this 2026 draft? Or is one of these lottery teams going to be on the outside looking in, being like, dang, we just need to be 1 or 2 spots up?
Now,
you don't need to reveal your entire board. Just now, do you think there are 5 franchise players in this draft?
Right now, I think there are 4. And I am on the fence about a couple. Are they
of the 4? You're on the fence, or you're on the fence with?
I'm on the fence with an additional couple. But here's the thing. I think there's tiers within that franchise changers. As a broad category, I have 4 people in sub tiers, you could say, and then there's 2 more players who I have that are in that tier, middling in that tier, fighting to be in that tier, kind of right on the edge. What about yourself? Do you think there are 5 franchise-changing players in this lottery? This is a phenomenal class for, just people to be clear. If you're not familiar with this draft class, this is shaping up to be generational.
Released my big board yet. The irony is, by the time I release it, it's probably going to be called I'll probably title it as Conrad's Big Board version 1.5. Because 1.0 probably could have been sent out weeks ago. And then I just kind of started thinking, but that's what we do, right? I have been for the longest time operating that there was maybe 3 or 4 players that you could say are franchise players. I'm kind of now opening up to the possibility that there is 5. Yeah. And by each passing game, I don't know. I kind of want to say I feel a little bit more comfortable about it. Again, putting it in suspense. But again, I think of those 5 players, they represent pretty much all different positions. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So again, it really depends on, what the team, I guess, what the team does need. I am typically a BPA kind of guy. And I still kind of stand by that. I think the team that does pick at number 1, you should get the best player available. Now, again, that's assuming that who you believe is the best player available is significantly, or at the very least definitively better than the rest of the field. If you don't, then I definitely understand where these conversations come in about preference with regards to, again, fit, style, or positional need.
I think they're about to get started, it looks like.
Okay, take it away.
Thank you, Malika.
All right, they're going.
All 5 teams.
Turn it, yeah.
The 5th pick in the 2026 WNBA draft goes to the Chicago Sky.
All right, Chicago's picking
Chicago
5th.
Sky acquired the 2026 lottery pick from a trade with the Sun.
Can you hear my audio?
I can.
Picking 4th will be the Washington Mystics.
Dang it.
Ooh, so the Washington Mystics making the lottery pick for 4th time in 5 seasons. Of course, they took Kiki and Sonia Citron in 2025.
At number 3, it's the Seattle Storm.
Okay, everything's holding the shape so far. Chicago 5th, Washington 4th, Seattle 3rd.
Means there are only 2 left. We are seconds away from finding out who will pick first and who will pick second.
We're down to 2 teams vying for the top pick. The number 2 pick goes to the Minnesota Lynx.
The
Which
Dallas
means the first pick in the
Wings.
2026 WNBA draft goes to Dallas
Wow.
Wings.
Good for the Dallas. Good for the Dallas Wings, man. Good for them.
That is exciting. All right, well, let's
Let's
dive
go,
into
Maddie
it.
Segrist.
It was always essentially chalk, right?
It stayed completely chalk.
It was
No
chalk. Okay,
jumps.
cool. Okay, great.
Very unsuspenseful. That's how it goes sometimes.
Well, I mean, you only got 5 teams, right? So, I mean,
let's remember that, for all the times that people complain about the jumps, there are a lot of, it can just go chalk. We can also appreciate the chalk.
yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
So what are your impressions? What are your first thoughts? Dallas wins the lottery. Everything stays chalk, but huge opportunity for Dallas, like we were talking about before the lottery went live.
Boop. Wrong one. I mean, I think this is good for them, in the sense that obviously, again, what we said at the top of the episode, you want the number 1 pick. The number 1 pick, though, to me represents optionality, and in a case like Dallas, I understand the discourse with around Dallas fans, Wings media, right? In terms of what is the priority, right? What is the absolute priority? Because, I mean, I'm not Kurt Miller, but if I look at his roster, I'm like, hey, right, we actually do need to strengthen pretty much every position, maybe outside of point guard, right? You got Paige.
Yeah, you're good there.
You could make an argument, right? You need like a definitive upgrade at every position. So that's a good thing, right? Now the question then becomes, what is the priority? Because you're making one selection. So I know, again, I guess we could start talking about some of the prospects in consideration for number 1, but ultimately, like I said, in my opinion, right now, I have 5 players kind of in a group that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. 5 players that represent different positions. So again, do any one of those players emerge, as, again, perhaps they provide a higher floor or the higher ceiling, maybe both. But again, at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is whoever they select or whoever they target with the number 1 overall pick, do they complement Paige Beckers? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And I think everything, whether it's a draft pick or a free agent signing or a trade, that is like the main thing that they have to ask themselves first before making any of these moves.
100%. Nugget about Dallas, they don't even have a 2nd round pick. They don't have another 1st round pick. So This pick is even more important because do they even have a 3rd round pick? They do. They do have their 3rd round pick. But as we know about 3rd round pick in the WNBA, very hard to come by. It's shooting in a barrel. What a win for Dallas. My first thing that came to my mind was Awafam with Paige Beckers, and those guards that they already have alongside Segrist. I like that. I like that fit. I think that would be really interesting. There is a guard that plays for the Yukon Huskies that we are both very big fans of, and she is very familiar with the play style of Paige Beckers, that being AZ Fudd. I think that would also be a tremendous fit. And to reveal, those are my top 2 players currently on my big board. So, so I think, just off rip right now, I would like to see one of those 2 players in Dallas. I think they would both fit tremendously well. And I would like to, especially, with Fawn, there's, the age, there's so many different factors, but, with the physical tools and, her ability to play off the pick and roll and different actions and being able to be enabled by Paige offensively, I'm really intrigued to see what that would look like and to watch them grow together. But also see Paige and AZ in the WNBA together. That would be a lot of fun as well. So that's my little prospect thoughts there. Do you have any prospect thoughts or fits that you like for Dallas, Conrad?
Again, I think both of those players, their names will continue to be associated with Dallas. I know a lot of people believe Awafam is the number 1 pick. I'm not going to say consensus because clearly people are still talking about whether it's, Awafam, Lauren Betts, Flauget. Olivia Miles was on that graphic, and then AZ. But again, like I said, there is whoever they select here doesn't automatically turn them into a championship contender, right? There's going to be more work that needs to be done, which is why I'm saying, right? I think when a lot of these conversations are had, people are trying to, I get it. You want to try to fill as many holes all at once. It's just unrealistic. It's not going to happen. So the question is, again, for me, who provides I guess you could say the simplest way of saying is who makes like the biggest impact. But impact is not necessarily in terms of like most points or blocks or steals or assists or anything like that. But again, who actually helps establish that foundation, that infrastructure that they've been trying to do over like the last couple of years. I think you could definitely make a case for both Awafam and AZ Fudd, as you said. And sure, fine. I think it's not going to surprise too many people, but those are the 2 players, right? Number 1 and 2 on my big board. I will not say who's 1 or 2, but they are, the top 2. It's funny. This morning they each played, right? UConn played Utah, and then
for about a quarter and a half.
Yeah,
maybe that.
Then, right. And then FAM also played earlier. Well, I guess it's technically late last night in their time. The point being, though, is I think I think these last couple of games, you really get to see what makes each of them unique and what could potentially translate, to the WNBA. With FAM, again, I'm not saying anything people haven't said already. I think her passing isn't just impressive. It's not, just impressive for a big or just impressive for a 19-year-old. A lot of the other bigs, the top bigs, let's say like in NCAA, even the ones that are like draft eligible this year, a number of them are actually very good, very high IQ passers. They make really great reads, but a lot of them are static passers, right? They get to their spot, and I'm not going to say like they do the traffic cop thing, right? But they let people move around them, and sometimes maybe the nature of maybe the way they post up or the way they seal will kind of dictate which direction their teammates should move. That's great. I love that, and again, I think we're entering an era where ideally you want all 5 players on the court at any given time. You want all your players to be able to handle the ball, to be able to, dribble, make, a fairly intuitive pass, right? Even if you're not necessarily a primary ball handler or a primary facilitator. But FAM is just a very dynamic passer. Dynamic in the sense that the types of reads and passes that she can make in full stride, in motion, right?
Yes.
And it's not just out of the pick and roll. She had a really great pass today where, again, out of the pick and roll, she, she fires with her left hand. She fires a pass to the right corner, right? Never puts the ball on the floor, just all one fluid movement. One, I don't think too many players could even do that, period. But again, to process that all that quickly, it just kind of shows you the types of action that the Wings could potentially run, with Coach Fernandez and everything. And right, his proclivity for stack sets and everything like that. And again, when you have a big who can play, above the nail, both offensively and defensively, man, the court completely shifts, right? The geometry of the court completely shifts in your favor. So
it goes back to optionality, baby.
Yeah, I definitely understand it. Now with AZ Fudd, the reigning most outstanding player of the Final Four. I mean, I'll let you go, but realistically, I mean, again, if you just want to put the blanket label of 3-and-D on her, that's fine. I don't even think that's necessarily pejorative. Again, I feel again, we are entering an era where, again, there is an element of pace and space. And I still think that, again, would you see AZ Fudd as a defensive anchor? Maybe not, but again, I do think that, I mean, I know Chris Koklanis is no longer the head coach of the Dallas Wings, but one thing that he did say that I think was absolutely true and relevant, just for the league overall, but specifically to the Wings, is perimeter defense, right? It doesn't matter how elite of a rim protector you have. If you cannot, stop players, if you not stop the opposition from beyond the perimeter, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? You're just leaving your rim protector out to dry. And that's what I'm saying. I feel like not only do the Wings need to just wholesale, top to bottom, they need to revamp their perimeter defense, but I think they do need someone who allows players say a Paige Beckers to be that defensive playmaker, to cause chaos on the second line. And they need someone who can really stay in front of primary ball handlers, right? Who perhaps doesn't get a lot of stocks, but will completely blow up action on the perimeter, right? I feel like a certain shooting guard from Connecticut does that.
Yes, again, she does.
Yeah. But in terms of that, though, let me ask you something. We feel that they can go in a number of directions, but
Dallas, we're still talking.
Yeah, Dallas, that is, before we move on to the other teams. But do you feel like there is pressure? I mean, of course there's pressure to nail the pick, but is there pressure to do perhaps what the majority of media or the consensus say? If their own, let's just say in Kurt Miller's war,
I was going to say, this is a Kurt Miller question more than anything.
Vary from the rest of whatever, either draft Twitter, draft writers, draft media.
Man, you're setting me up. Let me say this. If the Wings were drafting tomorrow, I think they would take Lauren Betts first overall.
Really?
That would be my prediction for the Kurt Miller Wings. There's a sense in me that I think that Kurt Miller specifically in that front office is going to really like Lauren Betts and love the idea of pairing a jumbo big, having a backline rim protector. Like you were saying about Pham, I think they're going to fall in love with Betts. I think if it was today, I think as the process goes on, they'll probably open themselves up to more possibilities. But I have a weird, I have no insider information. I'm not trying to, drop some intel or anything. Not
to be clear, Maxwell does have insider information on other WNBA related matters, which he really dive into. He really does.
I do. That's a good shout. But I there's a weird sense in me that they would look at Betts, and I personally, Betts, to be revealing, is one of those two players that I have on the edge of my franchise changers tier right now that I'm kind of wrestling with. And so I don't know how I would feel about that personally. Seeing her go first overall to Dallas, I think there are better players and more dynamic players like Fudd or Pham that really just open up the possibilities for you. Kurt Miller is he obviously had a very good draft last year, but his I don't know if his draft acumen or scouting acumen is going to lead him in the right direction in this class. Last year, he had a very obvious pick and picked some very good experienced guards afterwards. I'm going to be very interested to see what they do, but I have a weird feeling it could be Lauren Betts if the draft were going to happen, tomorrow. But what do you? Yeah,
real quick, just because you said he made an obvious pick, and I do agree it was an obvious pick, but obvious in like Paige Beckers is her. You know what I'm saying? Like
100%.
Right?
Not to be, that's not a slight on Kurt Miller.
But in hindsight, because there are some people now, they're like, in hindsight, would he have considered Dominique Malonga more? Do you think, like, now that you know what you've seen this past season, it's still the quote unquote right pick? Or should there have been more? Not to saying that there weren't. We weren't in his war room, but I'm just saying, is it perhaps something that maybe now you look back, it should have had more conversations, or perhaps it was a closer than maybe it seemed to the rest of us?
I mean, it's so tough to look back on that because, like, we watched the Dallas Wings, like, front court specifically, change so much throughout the season last year. And so, like, trying to think about, like, Dominique Malonga there and then no Page and then, probably still the two rookie guards and then Arike running the show. That would be a really interesting team. I think they would still be, I still think they would be at the bottom half of the league. I don't think they would be any better than they were with Page. And, I probably think they'd probably be a few games worse. But I would hope that they did do process and did look at Dominique Malonga, because I do think that she was in a tier with Paige Beckers last year. At least that's what I had on my personal big board, was a tier of 2 at the top. And, for the people who didn't, I think it kind of goes back to, some of the similar conversations we're having with Awa Pham this year, is like the combination of ancillary skills, fundamentals, physical tools, and like cerebral, offensive, like passing instincts and, spacing, like spatial awareness and the ability to move into open space and, defend in open space and help defense. It's like, you draft those 18, 19-year-olds, from across the pond with those type of tools. And, it's very tantalizing. And I think that less people need to be afraid of that just because, of the age, because I think it's more an indictment on the organization if you can't get it to work, if a player has displayed the type of, level of performance that Dominique Malonga had, before the WNBA, or someone like Awa Pham has shown so far with Valencia and playing for her national team. So I guess to go back, rewind, answer your question, circle back, I would hope they did the due process, because I think it's definitely worth the conversation. And I think you would agree with me, but I wonder if they did, because part of me feels like they didn't. And I guess that goes back to the conversation this year. I think there's more of a process. I don't think it's as much of a shoehorn at number 1, if you will.
I mean, again, it's not an indictment on, it's not indicative, positively or negatively about, the Dallas Wings front office, or any front office for that matter. It's just, I think with a player like Paige, you had such a significantly bigger body of work that you're more familiar with, right? You know what I'm saying? You've seen her probably up close with more regularity and everything like that. I don't want to just completely stick on Dallas, but they are the number 1 team. We got a couple minutes before we sign off. Let me ask you then, like at the time, and again, I want to make it clear that Dominique Malonga and Awa Pham, we're not trying to suggest that they're like the same player.
No.
I mean, even if you say they're both centers, like they play the position very differently. But I ask about Malonga in the sense that, last year I think a lot of, again, fans and even writers were like, well, there's inherent risk. I mean,
Mhm.
there's inherent risk in any selection, right? Let's just be clear here.
Yes.
The way it was framed was with Dominique Malonga was, there's a little bit more built-in risk because she is younger, and while she has significant upside, she's relatively quote unquote more raw, right? That's how she was described. More
Yeah.
raw, probably needs more time to acclimate herself, to the WNBA game, the speed, physicality, all that stuff, while still, developing her own skills. That sentiment is now kind of being, or that perspective is kind of now being placed on our fam.
Yeah.
Now, again, development isn't linear. One player's development isn't, right. I'm just saying, like, it took time. Some of it was really just giving Dominique Malonga time to play, like playing time.
Yeah.
But by season's end, she's legitimately a WNBA, at the very least, a WNBA rotation player.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just
At the
trying
very
to,
least. Yeah. Yeah. At the
right?
very least.
I don't want to speak like in hyperbole. What I'm saying is our fam, a lot of fans' concerns is like, how much time will she take? And if you have a team that really wants to ascend to that next level, is she going to be able to help that? Or is she going to delay that ascending, right, up the competitive ladder? What are your thoughts on that? Just real quick.
I'm not going to compare her to Malonga. I think that she can make an impact year one in the WNBA. That's why she's my number one player. I think defensively in the interior, man, it might be a little rough. She's definitely going to get exposed. Lack of strength, especially lack of play strength down low, is going to be tough. But like weak side, help side, she has some, weak side rim protecting ability. I like her switchability. She is a versatile defender on the perimeter. So I definitely think that she could impact year one defensively, but it's not going to be at the center. I think it's going to be as like a weak side shot blocking four who's switching in pick and rolls and, able to switch on to guards for brief moments in games. Offensively, I think she's going to need a very good table setter or two, on the court with her to really enable her to be the best that she can be, in the sense that she's going to need space to operate early on offensively. Conrad talked about how gifted she is as a passer, especially as a dynamic passer. And I think playing with, better ball handlers than yourself gives you the space and gives you more opportunity, in the sense of like more opportunity to be successful in that early on, because the defenses aren't keying into you. They're not pressuring you. So, for Dallas, you already have a Paige Beckers on that team, right? And so I think, if she landed with Paige, I think that could really enable her to be maybe a little bit better. I think same thing if she landed in Minnesota. I think there are multiple guards and there are multiple bigs that could help her in Minnesota and give her some room to operate both offensively and cover for her mistakes defensively in Minnesota. That would be huge. So I think that she's going to be able to impact year one, but I think it will be limited. Not comparing her to Dominique Malonga, but I do think it will be limited depending on the team. Minnesota, you have a lot of players that can look out for her mistakes on both ends. Dallas, I think you have, players that can look out for her more offensively, but I think defensively might be letting her out to dry a little bit with the current iteration of the Dallas Wings. So I do think it's team dependent, but even if she were to go to Seattle, let's say, I think that would be more of a Minnesota type scenario for Awafam than a Dallas type scenario. But I like all three of those teams for her. I think this is a good crop of teams for Awafam to have a decent bit of success as a rookie. Even Washington, like they already have a established front court young piece and multiple perimeter young pieces. So it's really like, I just wouldn't want to see her with like a rebuilding team, like a complete rebuilding team that doesn't have a franchise guard or, a franchise big to pair with her to kind of cover for her mistakes either on offense or defense. But, that's the thing with drafting a player that young too, is you're going to have to, there's going to be growing pains. It's inevitable. And with how high level the WNBA is, I mean, she's just going to, it's going to take her weeks to just adjust to the speed of the game and how fast the perimeter moves and how fast the tempo can shift in the WNBA. So not that she's not ready for that, but it's just a whole different play strength, play style. But I think she'll be able to impact, and I think it'll be better, obviously, if she's with a better team. But then it begs a different question. How many minutes would she actually get on the Minnesota Lynx? I'm not too sure. Cheryl Reeve is not someone who I would expect to play her significant minutes early on. I think it would be a slow roll for sure. So long-winded answer, but I think that she will have moderate success as rookie, and depending on the team, it could be better than moderate.
It's a good segue then, because again, a team that we do believe, we won't know until obviously they, put pen to paper. Well, we still need to actually get a new CBA agreed upon. But again, assuming that Minnesota kind of, keeps the band together, so to speak. I think they should expect a few players to leave in free agency, as they kind of balance their cap sheet. But overall, as you said, let's just say in your scenario, Dallas took Lauren Betts, number one. Our fam's still on the board. Now, what does Minnesota really do? Do they? What do you think they do in general? You know what I'm saying? But in that scenario, okay, cool, right? Our fam's on the board. AZ Fudd's on the board. Flaugier, Olivia Miles, et cetera, right?
Can we assume that they're bringing back a majority of? They're bringing back Nafisa Collier. Let's assume.
I would assume they're bringing back
the Stud Buds, probably, because they just walked on stage and represented the team. I'm assuming they're coming back. I'm assuming Caleb McBride's probably coming back.
Our guy, our Minnesota super beat writer, Andrew Dukowitz, he's informed me that he believes, having talked to people in the organization, that Alana Smith is more than likely to resign. That she will, at least at the very least, they're going to prioritize her. Let's put it that way. So let's just say the majority, like that majority that you just said.
That five, maybe throw in one of Bridget Carlton or Jess Shepard, or
I think one of those two are gonna.
One or two's leaving
free agency. Yeah. But again, this is where we talked about it, right? A pick isn't just a player; it's optionality. They've done it before, and I know they're gonna get some crap for it for when they traded down and elected not to take Angel Reese. But still, they could trade out of this pick. They could trade down. They could make a selection outright. All these other teams are trying, again, as we said, right? They're trying to ascend that competitive ladder. Minnesota is trying to stay where they are, and if anything, retool.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think there's a few options here. If you're Minnesota, I like the trade shout. I think if you're Minnesota and you want to maybe add to the cupboard of cheap contracts, you could trade down with Washington. Let's say let them jump up to 2 and snatch up 4 and 11 or 4 and 9. And add one of their later first round picks. Then you're getting a pretty nice contract. And in this draft class, there's going to be some value in both of those pick slots. So that would be an interesting move. Obviously, they could make a trade with a team for a proven piece and just trade number 2 altogether. I wouldn't mind that for them either. But I think that'd be a wasted opportunity for Minnesota. I think, the Lynx have proven that they're one of the, staple. They're one of the pillars of the WNBA. I think both in development and the way they treat their players, it's a first-class organization. And I think, passing up on the number 2 pick in a class like this would just be a wasted opportunity. We've talked about Alafam enough, so I'll talk about a couple other players. I think AZ Fudd is a phenomenal fit with this team. I would really, really, really enjoy watching her with Kayla McBride, Fee, Elena Smith. I think that would be really fun. What would that be? a fantastic four, if you will. And then the stud buds thrown in there. Like, I think that would be a really fun core. I think AZ would fit the play style of Minnesota very well. I think that would be a phenomenal player coach fit. I think
You think
if
she's a
we're
starter?
for that team, in my heart, yes.
Yes.
With Cheryl Reeve, just like if I'm trying to be accurate, I would say not immediately, but probably after the first, couple weeks or so, I would say she eventually would take over as the starter at some capacity. I mean, I think she can start at the 2 or the 3 in the
Yeah.
W. I mean, defensively, she's more than capable of playing the 3. So I think, that gives you flexibility, and our word today has been optionality. That gives you optionality as well. So if you don't go there, I would kind of be interested to see Olivia Miles with Cheryl Reeve. I think that would be an interesting fit. I think I'm probably a little bit higher on Olivia Miles. She's my 3rd ranked player currently on my big board. She might be dropping down to 4 for another player that we might talk about in a little bit. But I'm a big fan of Olivia Miles, and I think in the Cheryl Reeve system, it would be really interesting. I think if you replaced her down the line with or replace Courtney Williams with Olivia Miles at some point down the road, eventually, and, started off bringing her off the bench and, had her be a high level impact guard and, let her slowly grow into that role. I think it could be really amazing, especially for that offense. You just be getting so many opportunities created for people. I'm a big fan of Olivia Miles. So if it wasn't AZ Fudd or Abou Fam, I would be interested to see Olivia Miles in Minnesota. What about you? What would you like to see Minnesota do?
Well, just real quick, because someone goes like, "Oh my God, AZ Fudd, would she realistically even be a starter in year 1?" And I'm like really thinking about it. I think the question is, what team would she not start for in year 1? Like maybe not like on opening day, but I mean like go down the list, especially too, right? Like you got like. She's going to start for the Valkyries. She'd start for Toronto. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, again, we assume she's going to be in the lottery. But even the remaining lottery teams, she's going to start for the Mystics. She's going to start for the Sky.
Yeah. She would start for every team in the WNBA, basically. If not right away, I mean, eventually. Just because she's a rookie.
I think that's part of her appeal. Again, not to just continue making this an AZ thing, but again, right? It's not just how translatable her skill is, but a lot of people like to use those buzzwords, right? There's translatability, then there's scalability. Can you scale up? Can you scale down? That's the thing, right? Like her effectiveness, her impact doesn't change whether or not she has like a 30% usage, unrealistic, or a 15% usage, maybe also unrealistic. Probably a little higher than that.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with those prospects, how they'd fit Minnesota. I actually this is why I bring up the whole trade route. I feel like some of the best, if they're a team that really wants a player who could legitimately contribute, maybe not day 1, but like day 10. I don't know if that player is necessarily in the lottery. It's not that those other players can't, but I feel like there is not a direct pathway for some of like these players that are being discussed as the top 5-ish range. Same thing, right? Players that will eventually, their roles will expand as other players leave the team. So if you're bringing back stud buds and all of them, like I don't know how, like to what extent a player like say an Olivia Miles, I like the idea of, some people may disagree with me. I like the idea of Flaugier, even with that system,
She's my 4th ranked player.
Yeah. I think some people think that like sometimes like her off script play is a bad thing, but I don't think so. I think you kind of need that element, especially in a team that has structure, right?
Agreed.
You need to be able to, again, kind of mix things up, throw defenses off. But again, that's why I kind of threw out the idea of trading down. I don't think they would necessarily just trade out completely. I think we've seen how that can kind of bite you in the butt with some other teams.
Gosh.
But yeah, it's just really interesting because again, I really feel like they could potentially really shake up this draft because they're not the ones that are. I mean, of course you want the player with the highest upside and everything like that. But in terms of like quote unquote star hunting, it's not as big of a priority. If I just to kind of phrase it
Yeah.
nicely. But I know probably got to wrap up in the next 10-15 minutes. What do you think about Seattle?
You know,
Kind of in a period of transition. They have a new head coach, right? A little ambiguity as to, even again, assuming the CBA is agreed upon, there's some ambiguity as to whether like NECA and Skylar Diggins, like all of them are going to return. There definitely seems to be
Yeah.
a vibe that they want to kind of pivot more towards their younger players. So what are you
Agreed.
thinking then for Seattle? Like what route do you think they should be taking?
I mean, I think if you're Seattle, you got to target one of the guards that we had just mentioned with the last team. I mean, I have Olivia Miles and Flage at 3 and 4 right now. Obviously, we're in November. Our big boards are fluid, so those two are kind of pretty firm in those two slots for me, but they're kind of battling each other right now. I would like to see either one of those guards paired up with Malonga. I think Olivia Miles probably fits better for Seattle and what they're probably trying to do in the future with their new head coach and with Malonga. But I think Flage has a broader variety of outcomes, I guess is a good way to put it, in the WNBA. I feel more confident about what I know Olivia Miles is going to be in the WNBA than I do Flage. And that's not a slight on Flage. I just don't know if we've like fully uncovered, and that Conrad, you kind of hinted at this earlier when you mentioned her. I don't think we fully uncovered what she could be in the WNBA. I think early on she could be that, dynamic change of pace, maybe a little out of control at times, but she's changing the tempo of the game. And I think we could see her, control the tempo of games at times, maybe early on in her career in the W, depending on where she lands and the keys that she gets to the car. But I think if you're Seattle, you have to target one of those two players. I don't think Lauren Betts makes sense for you if she would still be there. If AZ Fudd was still there, I think she would fit great there. But I think you're still kind of missing that, point guard or driver of offense. Now, if Skylar Diggins comes back or Brittany Sykes comes back or, even Erica Wheeler comes back, I mean, there you have pieces that can actually run a WNBA offense and be able to get those players the ball in positions to succeed. Now, will it be top of the league and be elite? No, not with any of those players that we just mentioned. But here's the thing. If you, as Seattle, you seem like you are very invested in this like pivot and kind of moving with your young players, no better way than to pair a guard with your franchise big who show a lot of great flashes last year. So that's kind of my soapbox for them. It would just be Fudd, Flage, or Olivia Miles, any of those prospects. But I think Olivia Miles would probably fit the best out of those three for what Seattle's trying to do.
So ESPN's projected top 5 was in some order, I believe. Our Fam, Lauren Betts, Olivia Miles, AZ Fudd, Flau'jae Johnson.
Yep.
Right. Actually,
I think that was the order.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was the order. Yeah.
I was looking over my shoulder at one point, at the graphic. But just to be clear, that is again, you don't need to tell us your order, but that is your top 5?
No. Lauren Betts is not in my top 5.
And yet you just made a case for how she could go number 1? Wow.
I was saying Kurt Miller could select her number 1. I was making the case for Kurt to make the case, I guess. Lauren Betts is my 6th ranked player right now.
Don't tell us. No.
Oh, you don't. Okay.
I'm just curious. No, because again, a lot of these discussions that we're having seems to be throwing out the names that ESPN's though. Not that, again, this is a different day for criticizing ESPN's.
Yes,
work.
I have most of the same players, but we're not in the same order at all.
Yeah.
So same players, different order, or almost same players.
To be clear, that's not my top 5 either. Because one of the top 5 I would probably send here. Sorry, yes, to be ambiguous, but kind of want to draw your interest to look at our stuff later. We've been working on our draft boards. They're coming out soon, you know. But moving on again before we kind of close out, your Washington Mystics. The floor is yours. I mean, again, before I give you the floor, let's just give some perspective, right?
Yeah.
You had two all rookie, yeah,
All
rookie
stars.
players,
All stars, all rookies.
Sonia Citron, Kiki Iriafin. There's again a lot of excitement and still
Go
I
Mystics,
think
baby.
optimism. There you go. See, Washington.
You're
A
repping
lot
it,
of
Dave. You're
optimism
hoping.
for George Amor.
There is.
Did mention Lucy Olson. Who else is under contract? Like under contract?
JC Sheldon.
JC Sheldon. Okay.
That's it.
I
So it's just those five right now, I
Austin
believe.
is a restricted free agent, right?
Who?
Shakira
Yeah,
Austin?
she is, and we might still be paying Madison Scott. Actually,
Yeah.
no. Okay,
No, but I think they have exclusive restricted free agency rights on her.
they do.
Because she ended the season on the roster. I mean, again, Shakira Austin. I was thinking about that the other day. Yeah, you know, I mean, maybe she's purposely being cagey because she's going to enter free agency, but the way she kind of talked about it, it was like they being the Mystics, they are building something great. They are going to do so. It was not we. So you kind of get the idea or the sense that maybe she's preparing to go elsewhere.
Let me be clear. I'm a big Shakira Austin fan. I think sometimes her delivery can be a little confusing at times. That's one of the reasons why I love her also. If you're the Mystics here, I think we could go a lot of different directions. It's tough being at 4 because, you're waiting for 3 players to be selected, obviously, in front of you. I would be very surprised if AZ Fudd was there at 4. That's who I personally want. I want to pair her and Sonia Citron together with a point guard and have that be just ridiculous, trio on the perimeter with shooting and great passing instincts and just fundamentals out the wazoo. That would be phenomenal. But I don't think that's going to happen. I'd be really interested to see Flau'jae Johnson play for the Washington Mystics. I think watching her play point guard with Sonia would be a really fun combination. She is my 4th ranked player, so it's kind of fitting that I would have her in this 4th slot at this time. And it kind of works out too, because I think Olivia Miles kind of fits Seattle better in my mind right now, and I kind of think that Flau'jae would fit Washington better, just for the team style of play. I think Washington, we could use some of that energy. We need some of that leadership. Flau'jae Johnson, outside what she brings on the court, like she brings a swag to her that I think the Mystics are kind of missing a little bit. And I think that would, I think there's some traits with her, as a person, as a leader, as an energizer that are, very, they kind of leak out to the rest of her teammates. They affect her team. And I think, we've seen that both negatively and positively with her in college. But I think the Mystics need someone like that right now. Both of our, franchise players are more reserved and, lead by example. And that's why I love them both, because they're, very reserved and humble professionals. And it's really, really easy to root for players like that. But I think, we kind of need some of that nasty, we need some of that FU energizer sometimes, and I think Flau'jae would be a great addition for that. Basketball wise, I mean, she would fit tremendous alongside Sonia Citron. I mean, I think most players would fit tremendously alongside Sonia Citron. She's one of the more malleable players in the WNBA, I think, already after 1 year. And, she's our best player too. So I would hope if, AZ's not there, that we would get Flau'jae Johnson. That's where I'm planting my flag. Day of draft lottery. Let's get Flau'jae to DC at pick 4 if AZ Fudd's not there.
I'll simply add that if Sydney Johnson is still the head coach, I mean, no, I'm not trying to sit on the guy. I'm just saying we've highlighted.
We both had gripes about him.
Weaknesses. All I'm saying is Flau'jae is definitely she strikes me as a Sydney Johnson kind of player.
Yes, 100%.
Those players that have like that fuck you attitude, as you said,
Yeah. Sydney's like that. I he grew on me. He grew on me a little bit as the year went on. Even when as we were losing, he's growing on me a little bit. But I'm not all the way in on the boat. But I like that shout because she is a very Sydney Johnson type of player.
We're kind of coming up, or we're already come up on an hour. Good. Thank you for everybody who's tuned in. All 640 of you. Awesome turnout. Thank you for.
Thank you.
Two dudes who just kind of posted this like 10 minutes before the draft. I'm curious, Maxwell, because again, as you said, they currently have the 4th pick,
the
9th pick, and 11th. And the way I just phrased it, I said currently. Should Washington trade up?
Man, that's tough. I think we're fine at 4, personally. I think we'd be fine to stay and pick at 4, 9, and 11. I think last year it worked out pretty well for us to sit and pick. I think this year, if you really fall in love and you have conviction about Fudd or, Awafam, I think it's worth the trade up. Right now, those are the only 2 players that I would say I feel comfortable trading up from 4 to 2 or 1 to get. You're not trading up from 4 to 3 more than likely. But to move up from 4 to 2 or 1, the cost would be pretty heavy. I would imagine you're losing one of those first round picks, and you might lose J.C. Sheldon or Lucy Olson too in that transaction, just because Washington has contracts to trade. I would imagine that if they're trading with Minnesota or even Dallas, they would want one of those. Well, Dallas probably doesn't want J.C. Sheldon, but yeah, I think it would. If you have conviction about Fudd or Fam, I think Washington should trade up. Those are the only 2 players right now that I would feel comfortable taking at the number 1 or number 2 slot. That confidence, conviction. I've watched enough of those players. I know what I'm getting. I see a developmental track. I see a path to success, multiple paths to success for each of those players. It could look like different things for either of those players. Then it's kind of a tier break for me. So yes, if it's for those players, but I think our front office has shown an ability to draft very well. And I like what our front office has done and the moves they've made. So I think sitting and picking is just fine with me because I trust this front office.
I like the players that are available at 9 and 11 too, for what it's worth. Well, that's probably again for another episode, and obviously we'll definitely dive in and be more, thorough with regards to players up and down this draft class, in the draft order. But before we send off for the day, and again, probably less to talk about because what they do is largely dependent on the teams that pick before them. The Chicago Sky, who I don't know how you feel about them, but in my opinion, they're probably the most chaotic. Is that a nice way of saying it, or an easier way of saying it right now?
Yeah, I feel like that's a good, appropriate word.
Flux. How's that? There you go.
Influx is that's great. I like that. I like that word for them.
What are your general thoughts about the Chicago Sky? Obviously, they're picking 5th. We know exactly why they're picking 5th as opposed to picking 2nd.
Do you want to do the trade Camila Cardoso conversation? Or, besides that, they don't really have many pieces. I don't really know what the future outlook is there. Like, obviously you have Angel Reese, who's incredible. Outside of that, I'm not really sure what you really feel great about. Who else do they have on contract still? They have Maddie Westbeld, right?
Haley Van Lith.
Is that it? I don't think they would have anyone else, right? And they have who did they draft last year? Wow, why am I blanking on her name?
Yes.
No, they don't. No, she's not under contract.
Okay, but anyway, what do you think they should do?
I think they got to trade Camila Cardoso and maybe try and use her in a trade move up. I think you should call Minnesota. That's your first call. See if they'll bite at the apple. Then I would give a call to Dallas. See if they want to take a bite at the apple. I think that's the most logical move if you're Chicago, trying to get off Camila Cardoso. I think that's a smart move. I don't like the direction that they're going, building around those 2 bigs. You call Dallas, call Minnesota, see if either of them want Camila +5 to move up to 1. Probably have to throw in something else too.
don't think they can continue mortgaging their draft picks. And I think the player you're trying to reference, right? They hold the draft rights to Ajazivka.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you.
Again, like Minnesota's not going to bite, right? I mean, they
Minnesota won't, but Dallas might. Dallas might.
To drop from 1 to 5. I don't know.
You get Camila Cardoso dropped to 5. That would be my first call. See if you can get it done, because that's the best outcome for you. You're rebuilding. Try and get the first pick. Try and get the second pick. They should try and get the third and the fourth pick too.
I think Camila Cardoso is a really good player. I understand, fans that kind of where they are with regards to the things that she's still trying to improve upon. Some of the things that her notable, I guess, quote unquote, whatever weaknesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would really love to hear Jeff's pitch of how of 5 and Cardoso to get up to 1. I don't know, man. That's
it would take more, but I guess my point being is, in this business, if you're operating as GM, it's your job to exhaust all avenues and all options and see what there is out there. And I think we have seen in the history of the WNBA a variety of surprising trades, both on draft day and just in general, where it makes you question, the propensity of one side, and makes you celebrate the other side, committing highway robbery at times. So I think if Chicago, outside of trading Camila Cardoso, I think you should try and trade up and get as high as you can in this draft class. Outside of that, you're going to be looking for a lot of guards in free agency. You need a proven point guard. You need shooting. You need proven shooting. They need everything. They need point guard play. They need shooting. They need perimeter defense. They still need rebounding. They basically need everything.
That I think is probably the most disappointing. I think there's a lot of things that are
they're not a good rebounding team. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, they have invested the draft capital and essentially to build around your front court, and for the team's performance to be a little bit subpar. That aspect is not great. What
do you think?
Okay.
What do you think about what do you want this, or what do you think the Chicago Sky could do? What's your take?
The only player that will yield, or that will bring in enough assets to truly revitalize that team, is Angel Reese. And I know they don't want to part with her, right? But I don't know. You look at the state of the league. Again, right? You could always find ways to entice players to come, via free agency. But again, the odds are now kind of against you in a way, right? You have the Valkyries, who basically did what the Sky tried to do last year. They tried, right? The Sky were trying to establish themselves as a destination franchise, as a team that was on the rise, that had a lot of promise. They're everything but that, Yeah. Then you have the 2 expansion teams, right? And who knows? That's again a conversation for another day in terms of how competitive the expansion teams are looking to be in year 1. I'm not convinced that they all want to just try to emulate the Golden State Valkyries.
Agreed.
Still, when a team like Toronto, when you hire, Sandy Brondello, again, right? You're bringing in some reputability.
You're setting the table a little nicer, for sure.
Right? You have that cachet, so it's not like, hey, right, we're just messing around in year 1, right?
100%.
So I don't know, man. I'm not advocating that they trade Angel Reese, but as you said, right, they don't really have many desirable assets. And again, we're not trying to dehumanize players, but in terms of trade.
Yeah, in terms of on the market. And to be clear too, this isn't a normal market that we're talking about either. This is a market that is in flux, that doesn't exist yet because there's not a CBA. So when it does eventually exist, between Pro B, the newly agreed CBA, the expansion draft that's coming, the new money that's coming along with the CBA. There's so many different variables to this upcoming free agency and this upcoming trade market. And so I think that's why, like you hear Conrad and I talk about trade market, we're going to be a little bit more conservative just naturally because there's so much in flux right now. So like Angel Reese is going to be difficult to trade. Like I think if you call the Mystics and say, hey, we'll give you Angel Reese for 4 and 9, I think the Mystics would definitely listen to that. I don't know if they would do that, but I think those are kind of the type of trades that you would try and make for her, is like getting multiple picks back and like a player for pick swap trade.
Yeah.
I don't really know until we start to see more dominoes fall in place free agency wise what an Angel Reese trade would look like besides that, just because there's not a lot of teams that have the capital to trade for someone like that. And I don't think we've even seen we're still far away from seeing the fully unlocked Angel Reese. I mean, she's been stuck on the sky. Imagine her with a top tier WNBA franchise, probably is going to unlock another level or two. So, I think that's kind of the only trade that you're looking at just because of where the market is right now. And I think you're going to see a lot of teams be conservative until they know where their free agents lie and if they'll even play in the WNBA next year, which we'll probably talk about on another podcast soon too. Yeah.
But again, that is a great point that you brought up. Well, all great points, but the one specifically about, again, this new CBA, let's think optimistically, gets agreed upon, everything, a higher salary cap. Again, like other players, yes, their salaries will go up proportional to the new salary cap. But again, it's not like the Sky have some kind of spending advantage. It's still a hard cap. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
those 100%. Teams have that same cap space to work with. So it's really interesting. And again, unfortunately, like they're truly a team where like, it's not that this pick is irrelevant, but I don't know, it has to be in conjunction with other moves to really get this team moving forward.
Agreed.
Well, 72 minutes, right?
Want to call it?
Talking about the lottery. There's going to be a lot. Again, this was the first of many episodes. We don't really have a name for it yet. Maybe like Women's Basketball Weekly, WNBA. Well, no, because Maxwell and I, again, we'll have some guests throughout the season, the women's basketball, the NCAA season. So we're looking to recap, all the action from the previous week, kind of outlook, how it affects the rankings, and and again, same thing. We'll be following up with a lot more draft content in the upcoming, weeks, months, etc., all the way up until draft day.
Yeah. Good thing is it just goes hand in hand with that NCAA content. So it's just the perfect, perfect. I love how it's set up in the women's season. Just leads us right into WNBA. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Exactly. And if you haven't already, again, follow us at our own personal handles, right? Me at CP3_777, Maxwell at Hoops Disciple. The O's are zeros. Okay.
Don't get it twisted.
We are currently streaming here from the Center Hub. That is the basketball media group that Maxwell and I are members of, right? So follow us for NBA content, WNBA content, NCAA, both the men's and the women's game. In fact, right after this, some of our TCH guys, they're going to go on to talk about Feast Week, right? All the cool college basketball games that are coming up this week during Thanksgiving. So tune into that. It'll be great. They got you covered. And until then, we'll see you later. Take care.